Ladies and gentle people, this is episode 1 of Movie Cherry Mondays. The reason we are calling it this is simply because we talk about movies all the time. But regardless of how much we talk about movies, whether it's studying for trivia, debates, or just being nerds, we still have blind spots, whether it's our own personal blind spots in terms of like what the film community considers popular movies or like, movies that you should see, or just random movies, kind of like, Jay has a very eclectic taste that doesn't fall in line of what I would watch, but his opinion does matter to me. So if he gives me a recommendation, I would, want to prioritize it. And kind of that's what we can do on the show. And then Tato, he's new to the community in terms of just like watching banger. So he has so many great movies that he has the pleasure of watching for the first time. And I know a lot of you would be jealous to have that opportunity, especially in your movie watching career. But with that said, so there's going to be a bunch of us throughout the show every Monday, or hopefully every Monday. That's the plan. Where it's kind of a reoccurring thing of just like whoever can show up that week will show up, and then we'll talk about the movies that we were assigned. And then if you missed a week, then you could talk about the previous week and so on and so on. But with that said, Jay, how do you feel today? And without talking about our movies yet, what are your thoughts? Just when you got your assignment, what was your initial reaction?
I'm doing fantastic today. Thanks for asking. Actually, man, I don't I wasn't hyped going into it because I think the movie that I got assigned this week was one that I have put off for so long, just because I've heard so much about it, and like I know about the movie and I know about the franchise based off of questions that I've gotten in trivia or just like everybody talking about the genre in general. But yeah, no, I got some thoughts.
There you go. And then Tato, leading into your movie, did you have any general thoughts without going to specifics yet beforehand? And also, how are you feeling today, bud?
Feeling pretty good. Thanks for asking. How are you feeling?
I'm all right. After a nice easy day at work and a good workout, and then some interesting stuff. Other than that, we end up getting to it like
Of
as
course, of course. So I did have some thoughts. I was aware of this film in general. There's a music video about it's the song that plays at the end of the flick, and the music video kind of shows the flick. So I had seen the story play out in kind of that 5 minute territory. Um, so yeah, definitely had some fun.
There you go. And then at least this week, I don't know if this is going to be a reoccurring thing every week, in case we have a stack panel of six or so people, but at least with 3 today to kind of, so we're not just in and out with just talking our 3 movies. We could talk about kind of what we've watched this week, or since this is episode 1, kind of anything in the past that, maybe not the most popular movies of all time, because then maybe they'd be a blind, obviously there's not a blind spot, so we could talk about it anyway, because you'd seen them. I'll start just to kind of set the tone. I watched iRobot for the first time. I watched I Am Legend 2 weeks ago for the first time, so I kind of was like, I'm on a Will Smith, blind spot kick right now. I mean, it's one of those things. So I watched. Well, I guess I can technically talk about both of them, but I watched iRobot, and it's one of those things. The real reason I did it is because Cinebinge, a movie reaction channel I watched. They just reacted to Ex Machina over on their Patreon, which I have early access to. So I watched that, and then it kind of made me want to watch iRobot because I just bought it on my Vudu. Shout out my Vudu if you guys have access to that. So I was like, after watching that reaction to iRobot, Ex Machina, I'm like, I want to see how iRobot stands the test time. And honestly, AI is going to be coming up soon too, because that's just kind of, I want to get, an opinion on artificial intelligence. My big takeaway from this movie is, unfortunately, it didn't really have much to say, which was kind of a shock. Like Will Smith is great as always. Like he's a fantastic actor. He slaps it out of the park all the time. He does a great job of that. He goes head first, everything. He's great. He's a great time. But iRobot, Alan Tudyk's fantastic. Shout out him if you don't know that, him as Sonny.
He did not murder him.
He did not. Wait,
exactly. Yeah, it's just one of those things that I thought it was going to be goofier, or I thought it was going to be, more in depth, and it was just right in the middle. Like it was a nice blend, and so it was a nice little Sunday movie at whatever at Saturday or Sunday was the 11th. Yeah, Sunday movie that in the midday, my only off day. If I only have one off day a week and I watch a movie, it means something to me. So the fact that I didn't hate this movie because I wasted my off day, it's like Ray Fiennes in The Menu, I haven't had an off day in months. So you're going to die. No, so I don't want to kill anybody watch this. Have either of you seen iRobot? I mean, obviously you both quoted it. So Jay, what are your general thoughts on iRobot? And when was the last time you've seen it?
It's been like 2.5, 3 years since I've watched the movie. But I think the movie's a little bit deeper once you give it like a second rewatch. It's not just about like robotic racism or what the 3 laws of robotics on that Isaac Asimov came up with are, but it also questions what creates humanity, what is consciousness. The deeper you get into it, the more you watch it, because we have essentially a sentient robot. We have a robot that can feel, and to me that creates questions deeper than the movie is willing to expand upon, but tries to do the job well. And I think if it got a sequel, it would work really well. But I did enjoy the movie. I think it's one of my favorite Shia LaBeouf movies, just because the kid can't cuss and like he tries so hard. And it's just every time he's on screen, he's actually like genuinely, I'm happy to see him on screen. Instead of like every other time I've seen him in like a Transformers movie. But no, Will Smith kills it. Fucking James Cromwell kills it for being dead for 2/3 of the goddamn movie. Like, yeah, no, I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, but as soon as I saw Shia LaBeouf on there, I went to IMDb and I'm like, Shia LaBeouf 2000s, is this a good trivia category? And then there's just a bunch of crap kind of mixed in there. I'm like, dang it, not really. But I kind of wanted to be.
Double crap.
Disturbia, Holes.
I was about to say Holes.
Yeah, a bunch of there's bangers, but unfortunately it is surrounded by crap. Tato, what are your thoughts on iRobot?
So this one I saw when it came out on DVD. That's what we used to watch movies on, kids.
Shout out DVDs.
Rip DVDs.
Sometimes. My mom was working at a video store in the early facts. In the early 2000s, my mom was working at a video store, so I kind of actually saw a lot of the popular fare as they came out in new release form. So I saw this then. I have not seen it since. Enjoyed it a lot. Don't really remember it, so probably owe it a rewatch.
Is it something that has come up, like without me just talking about it just now? Is it something that's randomly, come across your brain where it's like, I'm kind of itching for an iRobot, whether it's Will Smith related, sci-fi related, etc.?
No, I can't. No, not until this moment.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I lied with my rating. So I kind of go with my personal ratings based on just my feel, because I'm not trying to pose myself as a critic. So with this rating, I'm like, I liked it, or let me rephrase. I didn't hate watching it, so I gave it a positive rating. But I don't know if I would be jumping to rewatch it. So I went with 3 stars. But it's one of those 3 stars that if I do rewatch it and it hits those notes that Jay kind of alluded to, then I would gladly bump it up to the 4 stars. So I don't do half stars, but if I did do half stars, I probably would do the 3.5 stars, because I feel like there's a universe where 4 could be possible. So yeah, it's with that.
We'll get you there one day.
It's a solid 3.5 star. Once you start using the 3.5, I don't think the movie's ever going to be a 4 for me. And I love the movie, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely a solid 3.5 star movie.
That is absolutely a good point, and I'll never do that because I just like the way it looks on my letterbox with just the 5. That's more of an OCD thing and just a visual aesthetic. Tato, is there anything that you watched in just general recent memory that you kind of would want to have a quick little conversation about?
Yeah, I'll throw out a couple other than this one, and other than the big one, obviously, that we all saw recently. Yeah. A couple I did for movie Battleground. Okay. So anyone who's watching this can get some insight into that. What do you know? Cross tie-in, shout out. TMG, movie Battleground. We are all competitors there. These guys are better than me. I hope to get on their level one day. That said, a couple movies that I ended up being assigned were Sing Street and Midsommar. So anyone want to go first on any of those in particular?
I feel like Sing Street is something we can have a good conversation on. So
I adored it. I am very much easy into musicals and shit like that. And coming of age stories. So that one hit right where it needed to. Especially because I might this might fucking spoiler it. I might be moving out of my parents' house soon.
Oh shit.
I mean, fucking
hopefully
shit.
The term is moved out, not kicked out, because it's more positive than sad. But
yes, yeah, it's on a pretty positive note. We'll go more into detail later on that.
Yeah.
But that said, so that kind of.
Did he just freeze for you too?
I think
tie-in. I have been.
You're back.
Hello?
No, you're back.
Hey, okay. like I was saying, adored the story. I've been listening to the soundtrack on.
That was
fucking
going to be the
repeat.
question I was asked. That's
Yep.
the number one thing whenever you watch, whether it's a musical or just a music-based film, because I don't technically consider this a musical because music's like the backdrop, like it's the crux of the plot. But I
That
feel
was part of the debate question. Interestingly,
That-
it
that
was
is- that is
musical.
funny. Yeah.
What musical deserves a sequel? And that's where I was able to defeat Alex Hamley because I love this story, but it's too self. Oh shit! Spoiler alert. Yee. Are we live? Shit.
We'll edit it in post. We'll edit it in post.
Anyway, that said, were I to have hypothetically done that, I don't want to see a sequel to this movie because it is a beautiful self-contained picture. So
Yeah, I agree on that. Jay, thoughts on Sing Street?
I watched this movie like 3 years ago and did not expect to love this movie. I walked away absolutely loving the fuck out of this movie. From the principal being a bully at the beginning to Fran Perdita,
Cool.
to what is his name, Fran Perdita Walsh or whatever, the main character, absolutely coming into his own, figuring out what Happy Sad is, and Jack Reynor just absolutely eating every fucking scene that he is in this film. Plus, it's got Littlefinger in it, and he's not being he's being a dick, but he's not being like a dick.
He doesn't have a mustache.
Probably,
yeah,
probably. Plus, he's also not saying chaos is a ladder. Like,
is it just a coincidence that both the movies that you brought up have Jack Reynor? Like, is that
yeah, it is kind of. And I didn't even. I'm so piss poor at actors, as we all well know. I didn't even realize it until we were in the middle of the fucking debate. That's how bad I am at recognizing.
Well, it also in Sing Street, he's got the long hair and he's got the rocker hipster type of look. It's kind of a mix, like more of a hippie, not hipster, but
yeah, and he's doing a different accent and fucking.
Well, he's doing his natural. He is.
That's him. That's him talking in his native brogue.
Exactly. So fucking. You can't blame. I mean, you can blame me because I should be a better.
My boy was a fucking jet engine, bro.
He was a fucking jet engine.
The fun thing about Sing Street is back in the day when it first came out, this was like the number one movie Screen Junkies was hyping up as like the most underrated movie. You guys go see this. I'm hyping this up, and it did live up to the hype, but it got to a point that everyone. It's kind of like Mask of the Phantasm and like other types of movies where or Iron Giant, where they're so underrated that's gotten to a point that they become overrated, not in a negative sense, but now just everyone knows about it. So that the term underrated now is being overflated. So it's like that's what happened with Sing Street. But luckily it's such a great movie that it does live up to the hype. So you can still have positive conversations on it, but also like, whoa, pump the brakes a little bit. Like, we do know about it. Like, another example, like Warrior, like everyone loves Warrior, but like only few people bring it up. But whenever they bring up, everyone has nothing but positive things to say about it. So it's like, is it underrated? Like, it's underrated. It's gotten to a point like we need to redefine what that term means. And Sing Street, is definitely not underrated because everyone who sees it loves it, and it's pretty well known at this point. But my point is, it's one of those movies that people can talk about and hype up and all that stuff, and it lives up to the hype. And this is a great example of that, especially for a smaller film. I'm not sure if it's exactly indie, but it's definitely in that vein of
it feels A24.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the positive A24, where the coming of age stuff. So it's just a good time.
And not pissing on the sacred tree type of A24.
Speaking of that, Midsommar.
Hey.
So not as a huge horror guy. Do you consider that movie a horror film, given that it's in daylight? Because that's always a fun debate. And then, what are your thoughts on Midsommar, Tato? As he's frozen.
Yes, of course.
You're back, fool.
Hey, fucking Christ. Yes, I think it's a horror movie. It doesn't have the traditional jump scares, but it evokes feelings of horror in you, like be it cringe horror or fucking. It's like, that's horror.
One of our pews, man.
Fucking Did she period on me? Did she period in my drink? Fucking, that's way worse than being perioded on. I gotta say. Fucking Christ, though. That movie is a fuck of a fuck. Florence Pugh is incapable of a bad performance, to my knowledge, from what I've seen. She's
not have to watch Long Don't Worry, Darling, because a lot of people have thoughts about. I love that movie, but a lot of people have thoughts about it, so I'd always be down.
Okay, fuck yeah. I'm if Florence Pugh's in it, sign me the fuck up. She's but yeah, that's just one of those mind fuckle movies. I'm pretty like I'm mid on it. Like it's a good fucking movie. Like it's visually fucking beautiful. I'll give it that for fucking sure. The composition, the shots are gorgeous, and I'm not opposed to the daylight aspect of it. Like that doesn't prevent it from being scary to me. Like if anything, to pull it off with that aspect is positive.
Absolutely. Jay, have you seen Midsummer? Or do you?
I have, but I only saw it once, and I wasn't like totally paying attention. So I know a majority of what happens through it. My comment isn't necessarily on that. It's more on like horror movies can happen in the daylight. I mean, I've watched the most Resident Evil 4 movie of all time called The Wicker Man with the not the bees, the bees.
Wait, is that the only one you've seen?
I haven't seen the original. I haven't seen the original Wicker Man. No,
I haven't seen either of them, but I've seen Not the Bees.
But like horror movies can happen during the day. Silent Hill happens mostly during the fucking day too. It just looks dark because there's a lot of fucking smoke around.
Yeah.
But no, like I didn't hate Midsommar, but I'm not a giant fan of like everything that's come out of the newer powerhouse of quote unquote indie movies that is A24. Yeah. I'm not a A24 stan. I like a lot of
elevated horror mean anything to you, or is it definitely independent on the movie itself, or is the concept of it in elevated horror, too niche and too weird for your taste?
I get it, like I grasp the concept, but to me, it's pretty easy for me to look past. Like if a movie is labeled as that, I'm still just gonna watch the movie and judge the movie. So kind of that thing. And
you miss the jump scares, like you said, it was void of jump scares. Do you miss like the concept of jump scares? Do you like them? Do you hate them, or is it something that you sprinkle in there?
I like them, but I didn't need them in this film. It's just one of those things where it's like fucking. I don't need like I can laugh at things that aren't dick jokes, but laughing at dick jokes is great too. So I can get scared by
fart jokes.
Yeah, exactly. So I can get scared by jump scares, and I can get scared by other things too. As like I am kind of growing a little more into horror. I'm still not the horror cat. I'll never be John Marr, but
you look like him. Depending on the day. Jay, what were you saying?
My whole thing about it is there's like a time and a place for a jump scare. Not every single horror movie needs one. I think that there are more like psychological based horror films or films that can evoke that feel of dread and terror better without doing the fucking jump scare at you, which is like unnecessary. And I think we've kind of been like it's kind of become like the new norm. Jump scares didn't used to be that thing, but
I think the difference with jump scares of a good jump scare versus a bad jump scare is the jump scare that's reliant on the music to invoke the scare versus what's actually doing the jumping. Because that's more of a startle than actually scaring you. Because there's plenty of times when you can like turn around and sets it up, and it could be a natural thing of like, hey, someone's going to like grab your arm or like, hey, what's up? But the scene is tense leading up to it, so it's the actual scare itself isn't what's scaring you. It's the tension leading up to it that breaks the tension that does the jump. Versus cliche horror movie. That's that.
Yeah, that's where Midsommar thrives because you have this sense of anxiety the whole movie. The air in the room feels weird when you're watching that fucking flick. Like you just tense the whole movie. That's where it gets.
Score does such an amazing job at setting that up, and I think like a lot of people have like recently come into loving scores in movies and how they like essentially play into the feelings that you receive in the movie. It's not something that's new because that's what scores are supposed to do. Exactly.
Usually you usually know it for like happy or like
exactly
versus setting a tone.
But like a draw of a bow across a set on a violin can create one of the most spine-chilling sounds that you've ever heard, and then a pluck on that same thing, and you're just like, oh, cool. I know what I'm getting myself into. But you still don't know when it's coming. So like you have that portion of it too, especially if you're expecting a jump scare. Like I don't think movies with jump scares where they're being set up for like 15 minutes and then you get it are like fucking great, dude. Like give me that shit when it's unexpected.
It's
Fucking
also not
close
just
your
the
book.
score, it's the sound mixing as well. And that
Yeah.
just also comes into the art of film that, separates a good film versus or a solid film or an okay film or a hitter or like an in and out film versus one that stands the test of time. There's elements to it that there's the reasons that we know the name Steven Spielberg and Kubrick and Tarantino, because they're not just people that make the movies, they're people that are making movies, their own way, but they're making the movies. I mean, there's so many movies that I watched that I'm like, man, that movie was really good, but it's just missing something. Then you look at the director, you're like, I don't really know that guy. That's because there's a craft that's missing. Jay, what is something that you've watched, in the recent memory that you would like to kind of have something on your chest?
Spoiler alert for a movie that may or may not be a part of a future episode.
Okay.
I recently rewatched The Man from Earth, or Man from Earth, which came out in 2007.
Okay.
Real quick, I'm not going to go deeply into it, but essentially it's a Vandal Savage movie. It's about a caveman who found a crashed meteorite and slept near it for warmth and essentially gained immortality and has been around since the time of fucking cavemen and has been moving throughout the world without like any thoughts of world domination whatsoever. And it just like it brings up it's all takes place in a cabin. Like this conversation all takes place it comes out all in a cabin, so it's a bottle movie essentially. Like everybody gets there and then like the truth is out. And it's only like an hour and a half long. It's a great movie. I don't think I know anybody personally who's actually seen it, and that's one of the reasons why it will be coming up in a future episode.
and that's another reason why, like, I feel like the creation of the show is fun, because it's not necessarily, hey, let me give you movie 43, which a lot of us like movie 43, but that's just the best example I give, or it's like a lot of people would give someone movie 43 as like a punishment. And it's like, that's not really the goal of this. And it's also not just underrated as well. It's kind of just, blind spots, underrated, something you love that no one else loves. Like hypothetically speaking, I know either you all have seen Last Christmas or you guys are familiar.
I've seen like 15 minutes of it.
Yeah, so maybe that's something I would give you, because I know I love it. A lot of people think it's like in and out, but like maybe they just watched it the one time and didn't really give it its due and pay attention. And so now if you watch it with fresh eyes, maybe, you know what I mean? Or like when we did the Blind Spotting watch along, like movies like that where it's like, there's reasons that we could do this and it just makes it fun. So that's a movie where it's like, that would probably never cross my path, but if you genuinely hype it up, not necessarily hype, and then once again, hyping it up is not the term either, because it's not like we're saying it's the greatest movie of all time, but it's like, hey, check it out. Like it fits checks a lot of the boxes that, like, and, for a close knit group, we know what each other's like. So we know that, hey, you may not love this movie, but it's going to hit some things that's like, you probably wouldn't give it a chance based on namesake or based on just, unironically unknown namesake of like not people talking about it, but like it'll do something for you. Like what I said about the iRobot, where it's like, if I'm only have one day off a week and I'm really sitting down and watching one film on my surround sound with my lights on in my couch and some popcorn, even if I don't love the film, I just don't want to hate the film. And that's what a lot of these recommendations can do. So we can go ahead and get started, and we'll actually talk about Jay's first, just because it's the most popular and the most known. So I feel like if we do it first, we won't go on a tangent too long. We can kind of cut ourselves off. So like, hey, let's go. But that's it. So let me switch over to this one right there. And Jay finally watched Scream. So start off by saying, why did you really like? Obviously, you talked about pop culture stuff, but like deep down, what was the reason you avoided this film for so long?
It's not my kind of horror movies. Like slasher horror isn't my genre of horror. I like monster horror and I like body horror more than I like serial killer horror movies. Maybe it's growing up in a state with like yeah. I mean, we had Gary Ridgway, for fucking Christ's sake, one of the most prolific serial killers of the 20th century in my state. Caught, dead now, whatever, fuck him. But like hearing the Green River Killer has another victim or whatever, like it got boring to me.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, but it was like, okay, maybe I've heard about shit like this a little too much, and it's one of the reasons why I stayed away from it. It's one of the reasons why I'm not really like a giant fan of like Fredward Krueger or Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees either. Yeah, Mikey Myers. But I did like this movie. I gave it 3.75. I know you don't like the halves or the 0.75s. And I said it in the group chat last night. I think had I gone in completely blank, it would have been a 4-star movie for me. I think this is the most I've ever liked Skeet Ulrich in a movie ever. The fact that they put Drew Barrymore on the cover of this movie cracks me up because she's in it for like 15 minutes. I get it, it's like a misdirect, but like the first 20 minutes of this movie, the first 30 minutes of this movie are fire, and the last like 20 minutes of this movie is fire. Don't get me wrong, I love me some Matthew Lillard, and he fucking chews the scenery. Like, oh man, you fucking stabbed me too deep. Like,
you're the phone, Dick.
Yes, we have a problem.
So mad at me.
The gun's gone. Like, there was a lot about this movie. Like, I even liked Henry Winkler in this movie. Like, I saw Henry Winkler as a menacing motherfucker in this movie, bro. Yeah, like, dog, when he threatens the 2 kids who are running around in the fucking the mask in school, yeah, bro. Like, I was like, is he about to stab one of these kids? Like, but like I also like the callbacks where he does the like Fonzie thing with his hair, and when he opens the fucking closet, he's got the fucking Fonzie jacket in there. I'm like, oh, you know what? I love shit like that. And then the little jump scare he gives himself while he's holding the mask and he turns around in the fucking mirror and shit. Like, there's a lot of great shit throughout this movie.
That's a jump scare where it's like you could put yourself in your shoes of like, my dumb ass will do the same exact thing. My dumb ass would do
that. I'm not gonna lie, I know the point of the character is to not like her, but I really did like Courtney Cox in this movie. Yeah. And I see why her and David Arquette got married. Like, they have great chemistry on screen together, even the little amount that they show.
I'm just glad you watched this one first and not 3, because if you got introduced to Courtney Cox with those bangs, you would never come back.
But no, like, you're right. Like, I have to watch these movies, and I know a majority of it through like, you know, trivia and exactly, the pop culture zeitgeist. But actually sitting down and watching the movie, I don't regret watching it. So much so that I immediately
jumped right over it too.
Immediately I followed it up with the second. But
I'll do 3 with you for obvious reasons.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things in this though is Neve Campbell being like, well, no, it's dumb that like she goes to the kitchen, or she, you know, the girl runs up the stairs instead of right out the front door. And then it turns around and kind of bites her in the fucking ass, like literally right after it. But it's a smart and logical thing to fucking do. Plus, watching it for the first time, like knowing that there are 2, I'm like, I'm looking for both of them. Yep. So it's like a little bit of a mystery hunt for me. And I love being the guy to be able to solve a movie. And I was still just like, what is going on with this one? So it brought an air of mystery to a movie that I know a lot about but didn't know about, if you know if you catch my drift.
And I feel like that's why that it's stood the test of time, because it's not just a one-time watch. It's not just based on the twist or based on whatever. And like, this movie's in my top 10 of all time, you know what I mean? Like, this is my favorite horror movie. Like, this movie means a lot to me. It's always meant a lot to me, and there's so many stands of this film. So just the fact that, knowing that it had a lot to live up, and maybe not lived up like to my standards, but the fact that I got, like, I always say this about The Big Lebowski. I don't judge someone if they don't love The Big Lebowski. I judge them if they don't appreciate what it's at least going for, and if they could say like, hey, I knew what it's going for, whatever, that's just not my type of humor. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, exactly. So same thing with Scream, where it's like, as long as you know that it's meta, and the fact that it's meta and it's a comedy horror, but it's more horror, like it's a legit horror movie too. It just shows that this is, to me, is a definition of what a dark comedy is. Exactly. Like, this is what I expect a dark comedy to be, because there's funny moments to it. Not like, I'm sorry, I'll bring it up. I know a lot of people like it. American Psycho is it's not a black comedy. This is more of a black comedy than that. But I will say one of my favorites is Wes Craven in the Freddy Krueger fucking jumper. You fucking prick. Like, just the small little missable details like that. Yeah, like small little missable details like that actually made this movie enjoyable. And I was looking for that's how you do Easter eggs. It's not real. It's not based on berries. It's not based on it's like a, obviously we didn't really talk about it, but like in Across Spider-Verse, so I'll get into specifics. There's things that are deep in that movie that if you're looking for them, you're going to find them, but it's not throwing it in your face. And that's how you deal with nostalgia. That's how you deal with Easter eggs. That's how you deal with, you know, all that type of stuff. And Scream is one of the first really of all time to really do that and master it. And that's why, once again,
Rose McGowan a baddie. Just say it.
Facts. I
She'll
want to
say
be
it.
in the sequel, Mr. Ghostface. Or not.
No.
She didn't fit through the doggy door, and I have two reasons why. With that said, we're gonna jump over to the second most popular movie or well-known movie of the day. Mr. Jake Tato, you were assigned Leon the Professional, and you kind of alluded to it earlier. You kind of knew a little bit about it based on a song or whatever. So going into it, what did you know about this film?
So I knew the plot. I knew about the tones of the film, obviously. I didn't know exactly how that played out. I was glad to find out how it played out. So basically, yeah, I knew that he's a hitman. I knew that fucking her dad goes, spoiler alert, fucking her dad goes down relatively early in the tale, and fucking, and then her, and then I knew they fucking were together and him training her and whatnot. So I had seen all that play out through music video, as you mentioned.
So my first question to you is, because I told you about 10 minutes in you should watch the extended cut. Did it feel like it, like if I didn't tell you or watch an extended cut, did it feel like there was a bunch of excess stuff, or did it kind of narratively flow like I remember?
Yeah, it flowed good. I do have notes on that. I don't know if I needed two of the paint training scenes.
Okay.
That we got the sniping one, and then we got the house one, but I really liked the burning the dope scene in the second one, and I like the humor in the second one quite a bit.
That's all extended edition, which that's why that meant a lot to me, and that's why I felt like that was very good character.
I went and looked at what was extended edition, but even watching, I had the feeling like that is for sure extended, and like then I also was like, most of what I figured was extended. The champagne scene,
that one is definitely could do without that one.
It's rough, and like this is a rough movie to make, to watch, to like in ways, obviously, because you're like, hey, where's this going? And
it helps on rewatch because you don't have. It's not as icky as it could be, but on first rewatch, it feels like it could get icky, especially in the 90s, especially from a French filmmaker. It just
especially from a problematic French filmmaker.
Yeah, as Jay is want to note.
Luc Besson's a giant piece of shit. If you don't know, Luc Besson's a fucking pedophile. He started a sexual relationship with a 15-year-old girl when he was 30. Dude's a piece of shit. But yeah, sorry.
But I knew it was coming out. Like the director's name can't be on screen for that long without you cracking. I'm surprised you held it in. Fucking good on you.
That's why Leon refuses to look at it. He's looking up. He's looking at it.
But at the exact same point in time, I will say I think Jean Reno does an amazing job by deflecting that and being like, I am a simple person, not just like simple IQ wise, simple brain wise. But it's like I'm oblivious to essentially a 12-year-old coming on to me because he's like,
shades of Forrest Gump.
Yeah, absolutely. Is she gonna be like me?
Yeah. But, Leon not reciprocating is the best thing about the fucking
wisest fucking move.
Yes.
Speaking of Leon Tato, what are your thoughts on him as a hitman?
Oh, fucking so badass. Like from the get-go, like you know what, like the air of him, you know what's about to go down. Like if you've seen this shit before, fucking he goes in, fucking kills the fuck out of everyone. And the shadow scene is composed so beautifully.
Bro.
Gary Oldman. Let's I want to.
Yep.
Going in, have you heard anything about him and his performance?
No, that one was a big blind spot, and he's such a good actor that even though I'd seen him in the video, I don't recognize him because he is so good at embracing characters. And fucking goddamn, he really is like one of the best actors we have, like in terms of it.
The craziest part of this movie is like, what is that pill? Like he just cracks it open and it's medicine.
Exactly. What is it? We don't know. We don't have to know. Like I figured at some point we'd go into that. No, we don't need to.
No, it's a pill he got from DEA lockup, bro.
For all we know, it's a placebo, and it's literally just his antics. You know what I mean? Like
It's vitamin B12.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking Gary Oldman acted his face off as usual. Fucking.
Any other specific notes you have, or I can have?
Yeah, I got a couple more notes.
What you got, bud?
The scream after he gets her in the hole is fucking weird. I don't know if I needed that. Like that one was just that one weirdly took me out of it and shit for a minute. Like
I don't watch it.
it's the low angle, it's like up and it shoots like up into his mouth, nose screens,
Yeah.
and he's like, it's like right after he gets her in the hole at the end.
Okay.
And he's just like, it was really weird to me to fuck out. But I liked a lot of the fucking, I liked a lot of the fucking shots in the flick. The end, when he gets, like, you're walking away, you're his frame of view, and you see the flash go off, and he falls to his knees, and fucking camera falls. Like, that's a really fucking sweet shot. Natalie Portman is acting her, like, she is so good for being 11 years fucking old. Like, she is acting with Gary Oldman. She is on that level. She, I think, has, like, her and Gary Oldman have the best performances in the film, and I think it's pretty fucking neck and neck. So for an 11-year-old to be able to pull that off with Gary Oldman doing his Gary Oldmanist is bananas. Natalie Portman's such a great fucking actress, and clearly was forever.
Yeah. It's one of those things when you watch it, like it's one of the most underrated scenes, but the very first time that she really gets to act is when she notices that she should probably not go home, and she starts walking to Leon's door, and just it's all in her face, dude. Please, please. And then she's just holding back the tears, and you believed that a little girl was in peril. Like, absolutely. That is fantastic. Like, that's not something that you can, like, anyone cannot really just find that inside and, like, just make that up. So that's just pure acting, and she crushed
let alone a child.
Exactly. And she crushed that. So that's just one of my favorite all-time scenes. But another one of my scenes for Leon is he's once again the deflection of, like, her weirdness, just as a little kid, whether it's Stockholm or
she's like so fucking psychotic, dude.
Well, when she first shoots the first time, she's like, oh well. It's when she actually does the Russian roulette, like all that stuff. But the first time he does the pig with the thing, and he's actually, being goofy, and whether it's simple-minded, whether it's being a father figure, whatever it is, it definitely shows that dynamic of, like, hey, this is the level I'm on, because this is not some creepy weirdo guys doing some girl shit. Like, this is me trying to set a tone, and it does a really good job of that. And it was and it's like pretty, early on in their quote unquote relationship that he sets that. So like you guys said, he does a great job of deflecting. So their dynamic is just fantastic. Because then by the end, that final "I love you," that's when you're like, I'm not thinking this is weird anymore. I'm just thinking this as, like,
he's doing it just to get her to fucking go.
Yeah,
but he also does mean it. Like, you build up, but not in a weird way though. Like, I have love for you. You know what I mean? I'm not in love with you.
It's a platonic love. It's a familial love, not a I want a relationship with you type of love.
And we had to grow, and we had to follow these two characters to really believe that, especially with all the stuff that happened before. So I'm glad that it really got
everything that happened with the director.
Yeah. Him and Victor Salva. We can't have nice things, guys. Because Jeepers Creepers is a banger too. Leon's a banger. Like, it's, damn it, man. Be good people. But
can't watch Seventh Heaven anymore.
Or ever. First time. Shit. It was on my watch list. So Tato, overall, what are your final thoughts on Leon?
Yeah, this is one I would have really, really dug if I'd have seen it when I was a kid, which is a kind of weird angle. But, like, if I'd have seen it at the same time as I'd seen, like, a Pulp Fiction or American History X, like, shit, like, those tough subject matter kind of flicks, which I, like, was very young but into, and, like, I got on a level, like, a lot of parts I missed, but got on the level I think that they're meant to be got. I would like it a lot more, but I'd still say solid 4 stars. It's a really good movie. It's a tough movie, and it walks the tightrope well, I think.
One whenever I asked someone about like their opinion on a movie, Ashley, one of the reactors I watch, one of the things she kind of rates a movie is like, would I watch it again tomorrow? So would you watch Leon again tomorrow, or is that something that you definitely need to space out and kind of be in a certain mood for?
Yep, yeah, it's definitely one of those hard hitting ones that you can't just throw on and shit, which is not a
Really?
badness on a movie, but yeah, no, I wouldn't watch this one again tomorrow. Probably sit a while before I go back to this one, and just like for the tone, really, not. Yeah.
What about you, Jay? It's more 90s action where you can just kind of throw it on and sit with it?
So like I watched this movie for the first time when I was like 12 years old. So I watched this movie in like 2003, right around there, 2004, and absolutely fell in love with this movie. And I think it was more like, oh, hey, look, what would you do in this situation? So you could follow somebody who is relatively your age in Natalie Portman's Matilda. I watched this movie like 3 times in a single day. And this is a movie that I can throw on at any time. I love this movie. This is a 5-star movie for me. I could watch this movie any day of the week. Even when I'm like depressed, there are certain scenes in this movie that just like kind of pull me out. Like the pig scene, him doing the charades, being John Wayne, is just like by far one of the most wholesome things on the face of the planet. Plus, you're gonna stop fucking smoking all the time.
Yeah.
It's just like
okay.
Stop saying okay.
Okay.
Like and making her drink the milk, him taking care of the plant, knowing that like he didn't have anything. Yeah, knowing that he didn't have anything other than the plant, him being taken advantage of by the mobster, and like her kind of pointing that out. There's a lot in this movie that I thoroughly love, and the action is one of them. And this is by far one of my favorite Gary Oldman performances of all time. Like Gary Oldman just doing fucking Gary Oldman. Like,
and this is one. Unfortunately, it's not like accessible, without legal means or without physical copy. But State of Grace, 1990, Gary Oldman, and he's just fantastic in that too. Like it's just one of those things where it's like there's just so many things. It's like, dude, this guy has range. So shout out and serious. All right, so final headlining movie, a movie that when Jay gave me this, I was shocked because I was like, what's his angle? You gave me Dracula Untold. And when I watched this movie, after watching it, I understood kind of like the appeal with Jay's, vibe. So it's got that Game of Thrones, Vikings, back in the day era, which obviously Dracula, it makes that sense, but it has the feel of that, of like, hey, we're at war. You know what I mean? The whole time I'm watching Luke Evans, I'm like, dude, how was he not in Game of Thrones? like literally, like he looks like Jon Snow's brother. Like, how are you not like a another Snow? But it's one of those where it's got the Transylvania, like when I'm going to skip a little bit, when it actually leads into the war of Transylvania and like they're all bats, like look, I'm just going to be vague spoilers, but when they become all bats, it's one of those things where it at first I was like, wow, that was weird. They really jumped that. And then I'm like, oh yeah, they're in Transylvania. Like it's not just a Dracula,
you can't stop here. We're in Bat Country now.
Yeah, exactly. I was expecting some Avenged Sevenfold Bat Country to play. Like, no, I was kidding. But this movie, like Charles Dance as like the first Dracula, the Master Dracula, the Master Vampire, I think he's credited as.
Yeah.
At first I was like, all right, what are we going with this? And it made me feel for this character, because obviously we just kind of talked about it with Leon, of like, put you in the shoes of like, what would you do? Like it put you in the shoes of like, as a leader, like, what do you like, how would he become Dracula? Because it could be born of like, oh, he's just randomly bit, or as much as we all love Spider-Man, he's just randomly bit by a spider. There's really no rhyme or reason other than just kind of chance, or wasn't supposed to be you anomaly. But anyway,
spoilers.
Yeah. But with Dracula in this one, it's like, no, I need this because like I need this for my people. And obviously the tragedy that surrounds it, kind of pushes it forward and kind of really makes more sense. But it does a really good job of the story. Now, at the end of the day, it's a 3-star movie for me because, like I said, it's not something that I'm going to rewatch tomorrow. Probably, being honest, not something I'll probably ever rewatch, but like I didn't hate myself when I was watching. It's like I enjoyed the vibes for it. It's a great example of what I was just talking about earlier, of like when I went back and I looked at this director, I was like, yep, I don't know like this director from anything. I think it was Gary Shore. Yeah. What I mean? It's just one of those things where it's like, I feel like if this same exact story had a different director, like a more acclaimed director, I don't have a good example, but like I feel like it's just missing something, some sort of gravitas. But like the story we got, like on the paper, and obviously on screen, like it appealed to me, and I had a really good time. And I'm just shocked that Luke Evans is just not leading more stuff. And this is what 2014, 2013. Like this is early in his
this is right before he plays Bard the Bowman in the fucking Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah, and before he had his chance as in Beauty and the Beast, when he really showed the charisma, you know what I mean. And then obviously in Fast 6 he was the main, or Fast 5, Fast 4, 6.
I want to say it was 6.
Yeah,
it was after the safe, right? Yeah, it was after the safe.
I get it on multiple choice.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's right in that era where it's like he shown that he can do this, and this was the leading it, and the way it ends, you can tell they're setting stuff up, and everything with anything these classic monsters, they just don't know what they're doing because everyone just wants the MCU, and that's the bummer. The MCU has ruined IP for other people because
that was
forcing it.
That was a question that I wanted to ask you, because there's that scene that happens at the end of the movie. It ends up being but my question is, maybe it's a two-part question. You've seen The Mummy with Tom Cruise, right? You've seen TC Legends The Mummy. Which do you think would have been the better kickoff for like that WB Dark Monster franchise, this or The Mummy?
Based on what we got,
yes, based off of this movie and based off of The Mummy, because this was supposed to kick off the franchise and it only made like $217 million. I think mainly that comes down to the fact that it's a little bit of a less known director, and at that point in time, Luke Evans is not a really well-known actor. But I mean, based off of the performances that you got in this versus the performances that we've got from Sofia Boutella and fucking Nick Miller, Jake Johnson in fucking The Mummy, which do you think would have been the better jumping point, seeing as it's now a stagnant thing and we're not going to get that WB Dark Universe franchise?
I genuinely, and I'm not just saying that, I genuinely do think this one did set up a universe. I just felt like they didn't know what they were trying to set up. They were like, hey, we're just going to throw the shot up and then hopefully someone grabs it and dunks it. You know what I mean? So like they threw the shot up and it was a good pass. No one caught it. And I felt like they didn't have a plan when they threw it up. They just happened to throw up a pretty good pass.
I don't think they did, because it took another, 5 years for him to come out with The Mummy after this one?
Well, and I meant just like based on this movie. Like this movie was a good pass. No one just caught it. And they didn't really have a plan as they threw it up. So it's one of those things where it's like if someone was there to catch it, they threw it perfectly. Just no one was there to catch it, and they didn't think about that. Like they didn't have a plan. You know what I mean?
They're not going to remake Frankenstein right there. They're not going to do another Wolfman after Joe Johnston's 2010 Wolfman. It was way too soon.
Yeah.
Like I think The Mummy fell flat, but like the end of this movie
sets up a universe. Like literally,
it does, or at least
Captain America: The First Avenger. Like this movie could have been Captain America: The First Avenger. It has its own separate, like back in the day, and then now we're in the now, which fake spoilers. But it's one of those things where it's like it's set up where it could be. Whether now let's Wonder Woman it and Wonder Woman 89 and go to still back in the past, but a different side story. You know what I mean? There's ways they could have done it, and I just felt like they just didn't know what they were going to do. And what
did you think of the relationship between Luke Evans and Dominic Cooper?
So the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, are they really brothers? Is it one of those like village, savior things, kind of like
that's what it was.
Yeah, I figured, but also like they genuinely felt like they could have been brothers and they were separate.
Yeah.
I remember he said they had different fathers or whatever. So I knew they weren't, but I definitely believed that they were. And once again, vague spoilers. The coin scene, I was like, yo, smart as shit, dude.
For real.
Like Silver, like I'm not gonna lie, there was like 2 scenes in this movie. I'm like, is he a werewolf right now? Like these effects and like this growl, very werewolf like. So I was really confused, but like it didn't take me out enough, but I was noticeable. Like I was like, that growl and those teeth right now are feeling very werewolf like, and I was like.
I think one of my favorite little blink and you miss it type scenes in this movie is when he goes to the cave with the master vampire in it, and he whips out the crucifix and the vampire just laughs at him.
Yeah,
because he's like, you've been taught this by the church, and I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah,
I don't give it power, so it doesn't have power over me. It's just one of those really weird things that kind of goes back to deeper vampire lore. And I'm not like a giant vampire horror movie guy, but this is one of my more favorites. This is a 4-star movie for me. And I know it seems weird because like not a lot of people have seen it, but like he is
this is a great example of a movie where I don't genuinely believe people who have negative reviews on this. Kind of like what I talked about movie 43 when it came out. Because when I watched, I'm like, that was better than I expected. So like on my Letterboxd, only like 7 or 8 people have it logged. Only 2 reviews. The other ones just have negative ratings, but no reviews. And in my mind, I'm like, did you watch it in theaters and don't remember? You looked at the Rotten Tomatoes, you looked at other people's opinions, like, oh yeah, I guess I didn't like it. Like I genuinely don't think people have an honest opinion on it. And that bums me out because I'm like, I don't mind if people like or dislike things, but like I want to hear opinions, you know what I mean? And that's why I, at least first time watch, I always write a review, even if it's something vague and basic or lame or whatever. So at least it opens the door for conversation because I want there to be a dialogue. And I hate when I go through like movies like this that are completely untold and unseen and underwatched. What this is a perfect example of underrated, for better or for worse. Like you could argue it's bad, but it's still underrated because there's an argument to be told because no one's talking about this, and the people that have seen it probably didn't really see it, and they definitely don't remember what they saw. So yes, I was shocked when you gave this to me, but I definitely don't hate it. What was your actual like reasoning of giving, especially for the first episode? Like what was that? Was it just the first thing came to your mind? Did you actually have you kind of been sitting on this for a while?
Well, so like this is a movie that I bring up in at least conversations when we're doing shit, even if it's off air. Like this is one of those movies that like I go to if I'm like, oh, somebody wants somebody wants a good action movie, because there's a lot of great action scenes in this movie. As much as like Gary Shore is known for like shorts and more like psychological horror, this one was like more out there and there was a lot going on in it, and I think he did a decent enough job.
I wasn't thrown off by like anything being dated in terms of effects. Obviously, absolutely. 2014 is still going to 2014, but like it didn't like stand out that much. Where it wasn't
Leprechaun 2 with the electricity or anything. No, this is just one of those movies that like I know that I talk about, and I don't have enough people who talk about this. Kind of like you with Private Parts, there aren't enough people, in your opinion, who have watched that movie that you can talk with about it. I like to give people movies that I enjoy watching. It's one of the reasons why like Dog Soldiers is going to come up at some point in time. But like this is the more easily accessible of those two. And I like this movie. I think this movie is better than people gave it credit for. This movie is definitely underrated in my opinion. Even with the people that I know have seen it, they still kind of trash it because they compare it to other like vampire movies, but those vampire movies aren't quote unquote origin stories. This is a great origin story. This is a great Dracula story. This is like just like a
when he says I'm not jumping off anymore, I am Dracula. Yeah. It didn't feel like a clickbaity.
Yeah, it's not a
moment.
I am Iron Man.
Yeah, it felt earned, like what Iron Man. That's great. That wasn't the example I was going for, but no, it felt earned at that point. Like you felt the transformation, no pun intended, of the character.
Yeah.
Not just.
I did see that scene when I was writing a trivia question, unrelated completely. No, I'm just joking. Jay made me write it.
You asked me for 10 movies. I gave you one.
Facts. And that scene was dope. So I'll give it that. That'll be my 2 cents on this flick.
Plus, Dominic Cooper, like, one last thing. Dominic Cooper is an underrated villainous actor.
Yeah.
Because he's still kind of a villain in Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter too. He's not a great guy in that movie, and that's another movie that not enough people, I think, talk about, but everybody has like seen.
Do you guys know my story on that movie? No. I never knew that there were 2 Lincoln movies. So the entire time, the actual Lincoln by Spielberg, I thought it was just the vampire one. So I avoided both of them at all costs because I was like, that's stupid as shit. the only Lincoln movie we get in my lifetime is a vampire only. Like I want
more vampires.
Yeah, I want to know the history, fool.
But no, I thoroughly enjoy this movie. Look at this poster. This poster is even dope as shit, dog.
That's why I picked that one because it the first time he goes it once again, not full spoilers, vague spoilers, but the first time he really does the transformation into the bats, it's during like an action scene, and it was just like badass. Like I said, it looked cool. It did a good job, and I like that they implemented the armor in it because it's him as a warrior, it's him as a prince. You know what I mean? It's not just him as Dracula. And once again, whether that's true to the lineage and the history of Dracula or whatever.
That's actual, like that's based off of actual armor that the body of Vlad Dracula was found in. Granted, the armor was actually painted red. In real life, the armor was painted red, but that is based off of the armor that he actually wore as an actual human being, because Vlad Dracul was a real person. And it's always great to watch movies that like tie the supernatural into real life people, because it elevates them and it elevates the story, especially when the story is already creepy. Like,
and this story, like the relationship between him, his wife, and his son, like I was there for it. You know what I mean? I was invested. So it definitely. And then once again, vague spoilers. Blonde girl at the end. You don't care about that unless you are invested in the movie beforehand. So I give the movie credit for that because I felt him. You know what I mean? That poem, pretty good poem.
Pretty good poem. Dracula got Riz.
What's up?
Dracula got drip Riz, bro.
Not even mad at it, bro. So yeah, I felt like this was a very good start to this. Obviously, we just had the three of us today, but I felt like we got the point across of what we're doing, other than being covered up. So with that said, Tata, what were your thoughts on the concept of being assigned a movie? Did you feel pressure to feel like homework, or does it feel like a bunch of people like, hey, let's talk movies, and you just happen to watch a movie your buddy recommended?
Yeah, very much the latter. I like the idea of it. As you mentioned, I'm definitely the least fucking experienced in actually watching movies. So I have a big, huge list of shit I haven't seen.
Big, huge. Clip it, guys.
The list is huge.
I have holes, man.
Stop saying I have holes. You're making everyone down here uncomfortable.
Yeah, but how many holes do you have?
So this is going to be great for me. And I will probably honestly start jumping in and watching some other people's assigned movies too, so I can join the conversation on those as well.
And that's one thing that it's not, that'll never, and once again, none of this is required. It's just for fun.
Yeah.
It's for vibes. But like, I would always recommend, like, I will probably do the same thing too, because it gives me an excuse to just watch more movies. Because how often are you just flipping through the channels? You know, talk about a statement that I haven't said in 20 years. Just flipping through the channels, going through my Vudu, and then you're like, all right, let's watch Big Lebowski.
I would very much love everyone's opinion on the next one I've assigned to the mystery assignee.
Okay, then we'll get to that. All right, so with that said, Jay, final thoughts.
This was a lot of fun. Usually when somebody gives me a movie to watch, we're not gonna do a show about it. We're not gonna talk about it. So it usually gets set on the back burner. So giving me that like deadline of, oh, you should probably watch this fucking movie by the time we have a conversation of the show, definitely lights a little bit of a fire under me to actually watch the fucking movie. Exactly. And I probably would have put off watching Scream for like another 5 fucking years if I didn't. But yeah, like it's about, and like I think that's another thing about the show that's really great, because I can give somebody a movie like Dracula Untold that you'd probably never watch in a million years, even if it was on TV.
It was on Netflix, watch it, and I just would have just gone past.
Exactly. But because you had it and it was accessible to you, you actually watched it, and it came a movie that you like admitted that you probably never watch again, but you're at least like, okay, I watched it.
I didn't force myself to have a conversation either. That's
exactly.
Like everything I said was off the dome, base memory. Granted, I watched it today, but it's still like off the dome memory, and like I feel like I remember it. You know what I mean? So like, if I ever watch again, I probably will. If I ever watch again, I'm probably gonna throw it up to 4 stars because I did enjoy it. I just don't know if I'll ever watch it again, and that's how I have to separate myself, and so I just don't give everything 4 stars. So
yeah,
you know what I mean. But like, thank you. You know what I mean? Genuinely, thank you for.
I'll never miss milk in trivia again.
Hey.
Never,
unless you're asked about Harvey milk.
$9.99 a month to finish that statement. Oh wait, this month we're on sale, $6.99.
Hey,
here's the month for giving. Make sure you follow Jay on Twitch. How many days a week are you streaming?
Anywhere from 3 to 7.
So more than 0 and less than all of them.
Yes. Maybe.
Make sure you check about what current game are you doing?
I am playing South Park Fractured Butthole actually right now. And
Butthole.
Yeah,
what is a butthole?
What's a butthole? But I'm probably gonna play that for a little bit tonight and then jump over to some Madden. After we do whatever shenanigans we have left in store.
With that said, I have an ASAT written 2000s comedy right now. So Tato doesn't have anything specific. Make sure you check out everything he's doing over on TMG for Battleground as well as Lights Out Trivia. He's
newest host. TMG.
There you go. Practice.
Did a good job.
And that's why he was comfortable talking today, because there's been times where I'm like, hey, Tato, say something. He's like, okay.
Titty sprinkles.
Yeah, exactly. My name's Henry Confidential. That is Jay. That is Tato. Make sure you check us every Monday for Movie Cherry Mondays. Latest Gators.